There were no microphones waiting for him this time. There was no defiant speech on the steps, no arm around his wife, and no flashbulbs capturing a moment of victory. There was just the crushing, heavy silence of a man realizing he had gambled everything and lost. What you are witnessing isn't just a royal leaving a building. It is the precise moment a multi-million-pound crusade collapsed in real time. Prince Harry stormed out of the UK's High Court expecting the world to weep for his trauma just as they did on Oprah. He walked in expecting catharsis, believing that his status as a victim would force the law to bend to his will. But he forgot one brutal truth about the British legal system. The High Court does not trade in tears. It trades in evidence. The doors have now closed, sealing a verdict that didn't just reject his demands, it humiliated his entire strategy. The quiet disintegration of hope inside that courtroom was palpable, described by witnesses as the moment reality finally pierced the bubble of Montecito. Do not click away, because what the mainstream media is calling a simple setback, we are exposing as a financial bloodbath that could drain the Sussex fortune. In the next few minutes, we are exposing the time bar trap. His high-priced lawyers seemingly ignored the staggering bill he now faces, and the untold story of how Prince William solved this exact problem years ago without losing a dime. Harry wanted a war. He got one. And now we are going to show you exactly how much it cost him. To understand why this case imploded so spectacularly, we have to step inside the room where it happened. This wasn't a television studio with soft lighting and sympathetic hosts nodding along to his story. This was the High Court of Justice, a place of cold stone horsehair wigs and centuries of unbending tradition. In this arena, feelings do not matter. Only dates do. Harry walked into this room chasing what legal experts call the 20-year ghost. His legal team was attempting to sue newsgroup newspapers for phone hacking events that allegedly took place in the mid-2000s, back when Harry was just a teenager stumbling out of nightclubs and fighting with paparazzi. But there was a massive, invisible wall standing in his way. It is a legal concept known as the statute of limitations. To the average person, it sounds like a boring technicality, but in a courtroom, it is a guillotine. Here is the simple reality of British law. You generally have 6 years to launch a claim after you discover you have been wronged. 6 years, not 10, not 20. Do the math. We are in 2024. Harry was trying to drag the court back to 2004. By any standard legal metric, he was late. Decades late. But Harry, seemingly blinded by his own narrative, believed that the rules shouldn't apply to him. He believed that the magnitude of his trauma and the betrayal he felt would force the law to bend time itself. He spent hours on the witness stand talking about ethics, about the cultural sickness of the tabloids, and his divine mission to save the public. He was trying to fight a moral crusade, but the man sitting on the bench, Mr. Justice Fancourt, was not a priest. He was a surgeon. Observers described Judge Fancourt as a man of razor-sharp intellect who has zero patience for performative emotion. While Harry was delivering passionate speeches about his truth, the judge was simply looking at a calendar. And then came the moment that sucked the air out of the room. The judge didn't ask about Harry's pain. He didn't ask about Diana. He asked a technical, dry, and devastating question. Why are we hearing this now? It was a question that cut through Harry's emotional narrative like a scalpel. The judge was effectively saying, "If this hurt you so much, why did you wait 20 years to say something?" Harry looked down, described by witnesses not in defeat, but in total disbelief. In that split second, the reality of the time bar crashed down on him. He realized that while he was playing the role of the Dragon Slayer, the court was simply checking the expiration date on his ticket. The 20-year ghost wasn't going to haunt the publishers. It was going to haunt Harry. Because in the eyes of the law, a prince who misses a deadline is just a man who missed a deadline. But Harry had a backup plan, a secret weapon he thought would save him from this trap. But what happened next was even worse. Trapped by the ghost of the past and facing a dismissive judge, Prince Harry threw a Hail Mary pass. He knew he was late. He knew the 6-year deadline had expired over a decade ago. So to stop the clock, he unleashed a bombshell allegation that dragged the monarchy right into the mud. He told the High Court that the reason he didn't sue earlier wasn't because he was lazy or distracted. It was because he was handcuffed by his own family. Harry claimed there was a secret agreement, a clandestine deal struck between Buckingham Palace and the ruthless executives of Rupert Murdoch's empire. According to Harry, this secret pact was forged in the shadows of Sandringham. The terms were supposedly simple. The royal family would agree not to sue the newspapers, and in exchange, the newspapers would apologize and pay a settlement at a later date, quietly and privately. The goal was to keep the royals out of the witness box and protect the institution from the dirty laundry of a public trial. Harry painted himself as a hostage of this deal. He argued that he was a prince held captive by his family's desperate desire for peace at any cost. He told the judge, in essence, "I didn't sue because I was told I couldn't." It was a perfect narrative. It fit his worldview perfectly. The palace is corrupt, the press is powerful, and he is the victim caught in the middle. He pinned his entire strategy on this secret agreement. If the judge believed it existed, the time bar would be lifted, the clock would reset, and Harry could proceed. But then came Mr. Justice Fancourt's ruling, and it was brutal. The judge didn't just reject the argument, he dismantled it piece by piece. In a ruling that spans dozens of pages, the judge effectively asked the one question Harry couldn't answer. Where is the proof Harry produced no signed document, no written contract, no emails confirming this grand conspiracy? The only proof was Harry's own memory and vague assertions. It was a deal written in invisible ink. The judge noted that Harry's testimony about this agreement was inconsistent and vague. Even more damning, the court found that Harry's own lawyers from that era seemed completely unaware of this so-called ironclad deal. Think about that for a second. A legal agreement so secret that even the lawyers didn't know about it. The judge went further, looking at the timeline and finding evidence that contradicted Harry's story of being kept in the dark. The court found that Harry did have knowledge of phone hacking years ago. He did consult with lawyers in the past. He wasn't a helpless prisoner in a tower. He was a wealthy man with access to the best legal advice in the world. The secret agreement was revealed to be, in the eyes of the court, nothing more than a convenient excuse for his own inaction. But the collapse of this excuse led to a revelation that hurt Harry more than any financial loss ever could. The most painful part wasn't losing the argument. It was the realization that while Harry was screaming about conspiracies and fighting a public war, someone else had already won this battle years ago. Someone who stayed silent. Someone who played the game and won. His brother, Prince William. If the financial loss wasn't painful enough, the courtroom revelations twisted the knife even deeper by exposing a comparison that Harry has spent his entire life trying to escape. As Harry stood in the wreckage of his collapsed case, court documents revealed a secret that changed the entire perspective of this battle. It turns out Harry wasn't the only one who was hacked. Prince William was also a victim. But the way the two brothers handled the exact same injustice tells you everything you need to know about why one is the future king and the other is in exile. Harry's own witness statement submitted to support his claims inadvertently revealed that Prince William quietly settled his own phone hacking claim against Newsgroup newspapers in 2020. Think about the timing. While Harry was filming Netflix documentaries and planning his public crusade, William was behind closed doors, flanked by palace lawyers negotiating a deal. The details are private, but it was confirmed in court documents that William received a very large sum of money to settle the matter. He got the payout. He held the publisher accountable, but he did it without a single headline. He did it without a single camera and without dragging his family through the mud. The difference in strategy is what experts are calling chess versus boxing. William played chess. He understood that the goal was to resolve the wrong and protect the institution. He recognized that a public trial would only serve to air dirty laundry and re-traumatize the family. So he used the leverage of the crown to force a settlement, likely donating the proceeds, and close the chapter. He won. Harry, on the other hand, chose total war. He didn't just want a settlement, he wanted a spectacle. Harry wanted to drag the newspaper executives into the witness box and force them to apologize on live television. But in doing so, he achieved the exact opposite of his brother. Instead of a very large sum, Harry is now paying legal fees. Even worse, Harry's own court filings exposed private details about William's settlement that the Prince of Wales had fought to keep confidential. Harry effectively outed his brother's strategy to try and save his own failing case. The most tragic irony is that Harry cited William's settlement as proof that the secret agreement existed. He argued, "See, my brother settled later, so I should be allowed to sue late too." But the judge didn't see it that way. The judge likely saw a brother who acted in a timely, strategic manner versus a brother who waited until he was angry enough to burn the house down. But if William's victory was a blow to Harry's ego, what is happening to his bank account is a blow to his survival. We call this chapter the billionaire's calculator. To understand the magnitude of this disaster, we have to look at a specific brutality of the British legal system that Harry seemingly ignored: the loser pays principle. Unlike in the United States, where each side usually pays their own lawyers regardless of the outcome, the UK system operates on a winner-takes-all basis. If you sue someone and lose, you don't just pay your own expensive legal team. You are ordered by the court to pay the legal bills of the people you tried to destroy. By having his phone hacking claims thrown out on the grounds of being time-barred, Harry didn't just lose the argument, he effectively handed a blank check to newsgroup newspapers. Let's look at the numbers because they are staggering. We are talking about King's Counsel lawyers, the absolute elite of the British bar, charging upwards of £1,000 an hour. When the judge ruled against Harry, he triggered a mechanism that requires Harry to reimburse the publisher for the cost of defending themselves against those specific claims. In a previous preliminary hearing alone, Harry was ordered to pay nearly £50,000 immediately just for losing a procedural argument. Now multiply that by the scale of this massive dismissal. Harry is potentially looking at a bill that could wipe out a significant portion of the advances he received for his memoir Spare. But the irony is even more crushing than the debt. Harry says he is fighting these lawsuits to stop the press from profiting off his misery. Yet by losing these technical battles, he is literally writing checks to the very people he hates. Every time he loses a round, he is funding the publisher's payroll. He is paying for their defense. He is paying for their office rent. He is effectively subsidizing his own enemy. This reveals a disturbing aspect of Harry's strategy: elitist arrogance. He thought he could outspend the tabloids. He thought he could force the court to bend to his will through sheer financial attrition. But he forgot that the newspaper group is owned by a global media empire. They have deeper pockets, and clearly they have better lawyers. This is not the strategy of a prudent man protecting his family's future. This is the behavior of a gambler chasing his losses. Harry is sitting at the table, doubling down on a bad hand, convinced that the next card will save him. But the house in this case, the British legal system, always wins. While Harry is throwing millions into a furnace to prove a point about principle, he failed to realize that the courtroom isn't a place for validation. He walked in there looking for something that money can't buy and judges can't order. He was looking for a cure for his pain. And that brings us to the root cause of this entire catastrophe. If the financial loss is the wound, then this chapter explains the infection. We call this the catharsis delusion. To understand why Prince Harry kept throwing millions of pounds into a case that his lawyers likely warned him was risky, we have to look at what he was actually fighting for. It wasn't just about phone hacking, it was about healing. According to court observers, Harry treated the High Court of Justice like a therapy session. He treated the witness box like the couch on the Oprah Winfrey Show. In the world of American celebrity media, speaking your truth is the ultimate currency. In that world, if you feel pain, your pain is valid. If you feel targeted, you are a victim. Harry walked into that courtroom believing that the sheer magnitude of his suffering would override the rules of the game. He claimed this was the crusade of his life, a mission to protect his wife and children from the same forces that chased his mother Diana down that Paris tunnel. But here lies the tragic mistake. The High Court wasn't built for catharsis, and it doesn't recognize grief as evidence. Harry desperately wanted a figure of authority, a high court judge, to look him in the eye and tell the world he wasn't paranoid. He wanted the system to validate his trauma. He wanted someone to say, "Yes, Harry, you were wronged. We hear you." He was seeking emotional redemption in a room designed for legal technicalities. And the system's response was devastatingly cold. The judges were there to measure law, statute, and historical precedent, not to offer personal redemption. When Harry's team leaned into ethical arguments about a cultural sickness in the tabloids, the court effectively narrowed its gaze. They didn't care about the morality of the press, they cared about the timing of the filing. This is the danger of confusing the court of public opinion with the court of law. In the court of public opinion, feelings are facts. If you cry, the audience sympathizes. But in the court of law, facts are facts. Harry tried to cash a check written in feelings at a bank that only accepts evidence. The psychological impact of this realization was visible on Harry's face during the trial. Witnesses described a quiet disintegration of hope. When the judge focused on the technical dates rather than the moral crusade, Harry looked down in disbelief. It hit him. The court wasn't doubting that harm occurred. They were doubting whether they could still care from a legal standpoint. Harry wanted a hug from the system. He got a lecture on time management. He wanted to be the hero who slew the dragon. Instead, he was told he filed his paperwork too late. The ruling was delivered without emotion and was intentionally devoid of sympathy. Harry spent years trying to fix the past, but he forgot that the law only protects those who act in the present. As the heavy oak doors of the High Court swing shut behind Prince Harry, we are left with a picture not of a victor, but of a man standing alone in the ruins of his own expectations. He walked out of that courtroom into a quiet disintegration of hope, leaving behind a silence that speaks louder than any memoir. The life lesson here is brutal but necessary for anyone watching. There is a profound difference between being morally right and being legally victorious. Harry may well be a victim in his own story, but in the real world, you cannot ignore the rules of the game like timelines and evidence just because your cause is righteous. Harry spent years and millions trying to fix the past, trying to avenge his mother, but he forgot to protect his own future. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to fight the dragon. It's to realize the dragon isn't worth burning down your own castle. From my personal perspective here, this is the tragedy of a man who doesn't know when to fold his hand. He views himself as a noble crusader. But to the rest of the world, he is starting to look like a gambler chasing his losses, doubling down until he has nothing left to bet. Now, the final verdict belongs to you, the jury of public opinion. Is Prince Harry a hero fighting a corrupt system to the bitter end? Or is he a stubborn man wasting his fortune on a lost cause? Cast your vote in the comments. Type team fight if you think he should keep going. Type team stop if you think he should save his money and go home. If you appreciate us digging into the legal reality that the mainstream media ignores, please smash that like button. It helps us keep the lights on and the investigations running. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you never miss a briefing. The court case may be over, but the fallout is just beginning. I'll see you in the next one.